Hey everyone, I'm Calm. I'm the Sprout-oriented head mentor for the PvP Revival Discord community, and I've been up to rank 15 this season on the Crystal Conflict leaderboards. With this video, I'm going to try something new here. I've had a lot of fun putting together guides on different topics I find important, but I also want to give you access into my brain as I use everything I'm making guides for in real time. I'm going to walk you through a game that I've played and talk through the decisions I made and things that I see on the map that influence how I play the match. There's bound to be something in here that you learn and can apply to your own gameplay, and if this is the case, leave me a comment and let me know, and I'll continue doing these in the future. Welcome to VoD Review with Calm. Let's get started. I'll start by working through the video, pausing in important places and talking through my gameplay. Once that's done, I'll have the entire game in real time at the end of the video so you can go back and see the speed with which I'm making the plays I'm making. Enjoy! Before we even get into the first fight, I've already done two things to note. First, I've marked the ninja as the target to attack. I can't actually click them from the gate, so I type this macro into the text box at the start. /mk means mark, attack 1 is the marker to use, and E2 in angle brackets means the second enemy from the top of the list, in this case the ninja. The paladin is E1, the reaper is E3, and so on. And second, I set my machinist as my focus target for my focus ethereal manipulation macro, as they're the person most likely to be in our backline for me to teleport out to if I make a dive into the enemy team. Looking back, Reaper might have been a better opening target call as they have to be in melee range and they get punished for dying harder than other jobs, but I don't know for sure. Right here you can hear the two sound effects. I mark the paladin as my target to attack, and my monk calls the ninja as their target to attack. Something that needs to be considered when calling targets is that I can't safely go in and help the monk do damage to the ninja because of how far back they are, but the monk can come back to hit the target that I've called without making me sacrifice my positioning. So the play here is for the monk to come back and hit the target that I've called. I've chosen the paladin instead of the reaper because the paladin could just cover the reaper, and then we're effectively forced onto the paladin for 10 seconds anyways. Killing a paladin in the opener is a very big deal as their kit allows them to buy an incredible amount of time for their team. The paladin purifies here, but doesn't guard, so I know they've got guard available, which could ruin my 3 stacks of freeze if I'm not careful. I'm going to get a 3rd stack of frost and then wait to see if they hit guard. If they don't, I'm going to dive in, use my super flare ability to freeze them for 2 seconds, then shock for big damage, and I know they can't break out of it. That's going to be a ton of pressure if it works out like I'm hoping. So the paladin didn't guard, and another of my teammates' crowd control broke the CC immunity that the wardens pay on provided from the enemy bard. So I get to freeze them and shock them, dropping them to 19% health before they're able to respond. The enemy bard put good pressure on me before, but because I was positioned as defensively as I was, I knew once they hit Imperial Arrow and Pitch Perfect that they didn't have a lot of burst left to scare me off, so I was able to recuperate twice without losing any real offensive pressure. Also, look at the chat command I used on the paladin. Instead of the standard attacking paladin, I used blocking paladin. I want you to take a second and consider why I'd choose that and what I'm hoping to communicate with my team with that. I've already established that I'm attacking them, and I've chosen a different quick chat command with a different sound effect to try and communicate that I'm going to freeze the paladin. Looking at the map, my monk is still in the enemy backline just chunking away at whoever they want. This paladin is so close to dead that if the monk had spent even 2 seconds hitting the target with everyone else, the paladin almost assuredly dies. This is why I'm sold on ranged being the most effective shot callers, because they will tell the melee what they're able to hit. Black mages in particular should be watching for purifies and guards so they know who they can reliably freeze, and the rest of the team benefits greatly by playing into that. Yeah, the paladin has no reason to be alive right now. My monk breathes on him and he falls over. Sad. So now I have to make a choice. Do I dive after the paladin and risk my own life for the kill, or do I swap targets and start beating on someone else instead? In this case, I don't have shock up, which is my best execute ability, so even if I did dive in, I don't have a reliable option to land the kill, so I choose to swap to the next best target. It's not as good as an actual 5v4, but the paladin is way out of the fight, meaning we have an effective 5v4 while they're hitting elixir, and we can build on that momentum. I'd previously swapped over to fire on the paladin before because I had just rooted him in place and I wanted to try and use a dot to land a kill, which was my best option at the time. I stayed with fire after swapping to the ninja because of the damage increase of fire 4 and flare over swapping back to frost. Maybe swapping to frost would have normally allowed me to land a CC that would have killed them, but here my Reaper does an LB to break through their guard and then binds them, and then Ninja purifies that bind, so my frost charges would have been useless on them anyways. And now they're out of range with enough mana to keep themselves alive, so we have another 5v4 opportunity while the Ninja runs out to Elixir, except it's actually a 5v3 because the Paladin still hasn't made it back into the fight. So I swap targets again, this time to the Reaper. My monk has LB up, comes back and hits the Reaper with it. With our Reaper and myself hitting it as well, a 5v3 with focus pressure is too much and we finally land a kill. So I have a choice to make here. I can either push our advantage and try to land more kills, or I can push the crystal, being the one person on our team anywhere near it. I've got my LB active, I've got my shock up with 2 charges of Ethereum manipulation to get in and out however I want. I've got every button available to me, I'm going in and landing more kills, and I'll come back for the point after we've gotten them. Again, killing the Paladin first is a huge benefit, so that's my target call. I'm pushing fire because it took us a full minute to land the first kill, and I feel like we're missing damage instead of crowd control. I'm really aggressively positioned right now because I know I'm safe to be here. I've got Purify, I've got Guard, relatively full health and mana, and I've got a 12,000 point shield from the shock ability I just used. This Paladin has relatively no health or mana and is dead as soon as they come out of their guard, so I'm gonna sit, wait, and land this kill. The Paladin dives into me with no health, mana, purify, or guard, and so I've swapped back to Frost knowing that any crowd control I drop on them is going to stick. One freeze kills them though, so now we've landed 2 kills as a team and we've got a 5v3 advantage. I'm still not worried about the point, the enemy team will have to retreat or die soon, so we'll get our crystal push in time. However, I still want to prioritize the point if there's a good target around it. The ninja is trying to contest the point while down 2 players, that's a huge win for us. Their guard comes out, and I know most ninjas try and use a Shikuchi to get out safely as the guard drops. I can counter this by getting at least 2 stacks of freeze on them and using a super flare to bind them, even if they've already teleported out. Oh yeah, this ninja's about to be real sad. I just teleported in and I see the snipe animation from my machinist limit break, and my only thought is, this limit break is going to get this person real close to dead. I've got to make sure this turns into a kill. Fortunately, I've got an 8,000 damage instant cast fire 4 ready to go, and they're about to fall over. We continue to press a 5v3 advantage, and my entire team is at full mana. This is a really good position for us to be in. Here, the bard just ran right in front of the point. There are 4 people here who could dive on them and punish them for their overly aggressive positioning. As a team, we have 2 choices. Option 1, push our 5v4 advantage further and try and land another kill on the very aggressive bard. Option 2, stand on the point and let the bard live. Unfortunately, my 2 melee here have chosen option 2, which means the bard is going to be allowed to reposition and rejoin the fight later. We have the option to push our advantage, and the entire team didn't commit to it, so we're giving the enemy team breathing room to come back and re-engage in an even fight. Also, when I say push the advantage, I never mean all the way to the enemy spawn by yourself. Look where my Reaper is. They run in with their LB and try and make a big play, but the enemy machinist has their own LB up and air anchor primed. I can feel my machinist friends collectively rubbing their hands together. Can you see what's about to happen? There's the stun, there's the LB, and there's the punish for overextending. We had a 5v4 advantage, and by pushing as deep as they did, our Reaper created a 1v4 disadvantage for themselves. If there wasn't a better target back by the objective, then I don't mind the idea of pushing in that far and would hope that my 2 melee on the point push in as well. But there was a better target near the point, and instead of being around to hit it, the Reaper ran off on their own and gave away our advantage. Also, props to the enemy machinist for perfectly executing the punish. So now we have a 4v4 even fight, except their ninja had been dead for a while and actually just respawned. So we need to be really careful here. We're at a disadvantage now, and staying on the point is not worth sacrificing our lives. We've got the paladin right here in front, and we need to blow them up if we're going to have any chance in this fight. Real quick, take note of the fact that I've called the paladin as the target at the 304 mark. I actually didn't notice this until I went back and watched the VoD. The monk uses a big LB combo on the machinist and nearly kills them. Watch the machinist's health here. Also, take note of the paladin's health as well. I called the paladin as the target at the 304 mark, and the monk used their LB on the machinist 4 seconds later. At the time the monk LB went off, the paladin had 24,000 health. If that limit break had gone on the target that was called, the paladin would be dead mere seconds before their limit break comes up. Instead, the machinist lives at 4,500 health, and my monk eats a stun, then a Reaper Fear, and dies, while the enemy machinist is able to recuperate and survive because the rest of us are hitting something else. So we had a chance to make this at least a 3v4, but because the monk ignored the target call, they're dead and we're down to a 3v5. I just hit my LB, so I'll try and throw in some damage from range, but I see a 3v5 and I'm ready to retreat. There's no way we win this fight, especially with a ninja LB up and ready to go. But I threw my sleep ability on the clump of players before, and it's stuck on the paladin, which means the next attack they take is going to do an additional 8,000 damage. So I'm going in because my team hasn't bailed yet. I probably shouldn't have done this. There's no real reason for the paladin to be dead in this situation, so I would argue that I made a bad play here. But sometimes lucky, I dive in, purify the stun, and am able to hit the paladin with a shock who also eats a super clutch stun from my samurai, and we land the kill. Earlier, I mentioned making the choice not to dive because I didn't have the buttons available both to safely survive the dive and land the kill. This time, I've got shock available for a big execute attempt as well as both purify and guard to try and live afterwards. So I make the dive, purify the stun from the ninja which nearly kept the paladin alive, and land the killing blow. So we got a kill, which is great, but now I'm in deep in a 2v4 and I've sacrificed my position to do it. I've got my 5-second purify buff ticking down, and I have the remainder of the time on it to try and get myself out alive. I mean, I'm so close to being punished here. I've done the math for you, and I'm at 54% health with only one recuperate available and a ninja with LB chasing me down, so I'm real close to dead here. If even one more attack had snapshotted before my guard activated, I get ninja LB'd here and die. But fortunately, I pick the last possible moment to get out, and I run out and live. I knew we weren't winning a 2v4, so I ran away and lived to tell the tale. Unfortunately, my samurai is staying in really deep against the enemy Reaper. If the enemy team also agreed that the point is a bait and saw the samurai alone in their backline, that samurai wouldn't be alive for very long. Come on, you can do it! My samurai successfully hits the Reaper with the LB, but they live through it with a shield. And the enemy team finally did agree that the point is a bait and ran back to kill the samurai, who is super out of position now with low health, low mana, and their Chi 10 defensive gone. It was at the 248 mark where I knew it was time to run away and try and regroup with the rest of our team that was respawning with the intention of taking a more favorable fight. This is almost 30 seconds later, and the samurai is still by themselves deep in the enemy back line. 30 seconds to try and escape, elixir, then go back into a group fight with a better shot at hitting a game-breaking limit break. Now, there's no chance of helping them, their limit break is down, and they're entirely out of survival buttons. And they're dead. So now, instead of having our team entirely respawned and ready to take an even 5v5 fight, we're at a 4v5 disadvantage again. This disadvantage was set up 30 full seconds ago when the samurai decided to stay in and take an unfavorable fight instead of pulling back and regrouping. For some reason, the enemy Reaper has moved towards the middle of the map where we're running in. This gives us the ability to run in and stop their elixir and also just kill them outright. They should be back either where my samurai's corpse is or even further back towards their spawn if they were trying to escape the samurai to keep us from interrupting their cast. and down goes the Reaper. It's incredibly difficult as a melee to know when to run away, but it's arguably the most important skill to develop, and is what I would argue most definitively separates the top 100 from everybody else. But I had to position really aggressively to help ensure that kill, and both the Bard and the Machinist are trying to punish me for it. The Ninja still has their limit break up, and I'm absolutely in trouble here. I know that pressing guard is going to leave me under the 50% health threshold, ensuring a sad Ninja limit break death, so my only option is to run away and spam recuperate to try and keep myself above that threshold. At this point, I don't know where the Ninja actually is, so I'm playing as though they're right on top of me. I'm able to make it out alive, but I burn all of my mana in the process. I'm running way back to try and elixir safely, and forcing the Paladin out of the fight if they want to chase me and stop it. At this point, I don't realize that I've got two teammates way in the back line, so I turn around in what I think is a defensive position and start to try and push the Paladin back. But I realized too late I'm actually in a 2v3 with no mana, and I can't get a shock off quick enough to get the shield to try and survive the incoming damage. And now I've realized why I'm dead. So right now I've got two teammates way out of position fighting one person while the enemy team is both pushing the point and winning the fight on it. There's now a 3v2 on the point with my samurai having just respawned. The point can certainly be a bait, but obviously ignoring it entirely is the fastest way to lose, and both my machinist and my monk are doing exactly that. Any extra pressure on either the enemy bard or machinist might have been enough of a distraction to keep me alive, which matters a lot because I've got my limit break up and ready to go, so that's a lot of damage we're waiting on a respawn for. I'm not stupid. I had actually pushed a button on my mouse to put it on the wrong setting, and I had to fix that. I promise I'm not drunk. And seriously, they've been chasing this ninja for literally over 30 seconds now without landing a kill. Come on. I've made a big mistake here. I didn't realize the Paladin had popped their limit break, nor did I see that they had covered the Reaper. I pumped a lot of crowd control and damage into them, and as you can see, nothing landed. I should have been looking out for both of those abilities, and what I needed to do instead was target someone who wasn't covered. Not to mention, I've got my limit break ready, and there's no reason for me not to just send it. Now we're finally in a 5v5 again. Unfortunately for us, their Reaper hits a highly effective limit break on my Samurai, and you know the Machinist is hitting them as well because of the Wildfire debuff on them. They're about to die with nearly a full mana bar, which always feels bad, but is absolutely reasonable inside of a Reaper fear if focused down well enough. So here, I've got the Machinist called as the target, but they had run halfway back along the speed path well out of range of my attacks, so I swapped to the next best target for me, which was the Reaper. I didn't press the button to call the new target, and I should have. I've got my limit break up, so I'm losing pressure if I hit the solo Paladin on top of me instead of trying to maximize my cleave by hitting someone on the point. Unfortunately, rather than assist us in landing the kill on the nearly dead Reaper, my monk uses their limit break combo on the tank, who started the combo at 54,000 health, which is plenty to survive. Monk limit break almost kills the tank, but doesn't quite, and now, instead of landing a kill, we have two enemies low on health. I see the limit break myself and swap over to the Paladin to try and finish it off, but they have guard available. I also had to run closer to the point in order to land a hit, which sacrificed my positioning. This is my biggest mistake of the game. I shouldn't have used my elixir here. I've got my limit break up, there are a bunch of enemies on the point, and I could cleave the hell out of them. The better play would have been for me to see that I have two instant cast charges left, launch them, and try and land a kill on any of the low targets, then pull back an elixir after that. So now, because I pulled back instead of pressing for the kill, the Paladin is out safe, the Reaper is using their elixir, and my Monk becomes everyone's tab target, eats a drill, and dies. My Reaper uses their limit break to break the ninja's guard, who also happens to be at half health and no mana, so I'm definitely swapping to that to try and help land a kill. A dead enemy ninja with a limit break up is a huge mitigated risk. But watch as I try and target the ninja. Holy heck, targeting in this game is horrid. I literally did a guide on it and I still can't make it work reliably all the time. I used my secondary targeting bind twice there, but instead of picking the target directly in the middle of my screen, it chose the machinist over in Narnia twice. But fortunately, just as I'm about to resort to clicking the ninja, my Reaper communios them into the Shadow Realm. It's a 4v4 now, and hopefully we're back to killing the enemy Reaper right here in front of me. Seriously, this Bard is putting a lot of pressure on me with silences and burst. Their mistake, though, is that they keep doing it while I'm at full health, so their entire burst combo is mitigated by a recuperate or two, and I'm right back into the fight. Both of the enemies I had a chance to kill almost 30 seconds ago at this point are back in the fight and participate in the kill on my Samurai. Now we're in a 3v4, the enemy Reaper LB can push us off the point, the Machinist nearly has their limit break ready, and we've got very little to work with ourselves. We're in really bad shape here with under 30 seconds left in the match. The best bet is still to try and take out this Reaper as they're low on mana. Two things happen here. One, you hate to see the disconnects, that pretty much seals it on its own. And two, our Machinist has a drill button of their own and is able to take out the Reaper before they're able to get any value out of the limit break they had just used. Now, because of these two things, we have a 4v2 advantage and still have more percentage pushed on the point. I'm fortunate that my Machinist was out in the open to land the kill, where I've played this last 30 seconds too defensively behind the wall. Now that I'm watching this back, I think I can get the same LOS value with a better angle of attack by using this wall here instead. And I'll know to look for that earlier in the future, but at least I do figure it out here and pop my LB, which should clear out the rest of the enemy team. The ninja gets back, but doesn't get on the point, and the game ends. By the way, here's a really helpful tip for you about the start of overtime. If you have the game music on, overtime always hits at the same point of the music, and it's so masterfully done too. It's very obvious when overtime is coming up. Listen to this. This part of the music happens 3 times in the game. It happens at the 4:30 mark, the 2:15 mark, and right at the very start of overtime. So when you hear the music hit this point, you'd better start thinking about whether or not you need to be on the point to continue the game. Overall, I'm far more of a defensive player than offensive. My fight or flight definitely prioritizes flight, and then I'll turn around and punish if I feel like it's safe to do so. For the first 4 minutes of the game, even watching back, I feel like I played really well, called good targets, made good calculated decisions, and escaped some situations where I could have very easily died if I'd hesitated at all. In the last minute, some unfortunate team decisions along with me choosing the wrong moment to step away from the fight nearly cost us the win. When we had the offensive advantage, we had team push in too far and die for it. Then when it was time to retreat and regroup, we had people stay in the enemy backline, which gave the enemy team a free pass to our 50% point, cost us multiple lives, and gained nothing for our team in return. Then we were losing the team fight at the end until a fortunate enemy disconnect. So if I were to summarize this game into 3 key takeaways, I'd say: 1. Listen to the shot calls. Know what the individuals on your team can safely do, and make that a determining factor when considering your target. Then, when you see targets selected, hit them and don't be frustrated if the target changes. If you're calling a target of your own, think about whether or not the rest of your team can actually assist you safely in killing it. 2. The point is a bait. Don't ignore it, but also don't feel like you have to push it if there are kills to be scored instead. You can always go back and get the point after you've won the team fight, but sacrificing the team fight for the sake of getting some distance on the crystal normally costs you more percentage than you're going to get. Staying in the team fight for a few more seconds to kill another enemy will give you a lot more stress-free time to push the crystal forward. I've done the research for you, and it takes 21 seconds from the time you lose control of your character to the time you regain control of your character the very first time you die. So if you take 10 seconds off the point to kill someone, that's 11 seconds of value you get from having one less enemy to deal with as you go back and push the crystal forward. And 3, get value out of your limit breaks. Melee should be getting kills with them every time they use it. The Samurai only got one limit break the entire match, which was mitigated by a shield, and the Monk's limit break never actually landed a killing blow and failed to facilitate one twice. If any single one of those do facilitate a kill, it probably gives us the win outright. And that wraps up this first VoD review. Immediately following this is the match that I just reviewed in real time. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to either ask in the comments at my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/comlamity, or by joining the PvP Revival Discord and asking the team of mentors there. If you enjoyed this video, let me know and I'll be happy to do more of them. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel, both of which help me tremendously. Until next time, happy hunting!